Awesome. So good morning, everybody. It's Marguerite Crespillo. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Tuesday Tune-Ups. This is always open to anybody with any company, so you're always welcome to join us and hop on in. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what is your actual time worth, right? And I think that many people get focused on doing a lot of what we call minutia activities that are not really worth, I'm not going to say not worth your time, but that are consuming your time and keeping you from doing things that potentially could earn you additional revenue. And so how much of your time is focused on revenue generating activities versus the busyness of business, right? We did a class a few weeks ago on busyness versus business. And what I find many times is that people are doing activities that are keeping them busy, but keeping them away from doing what actually has to be done. And so when I talk about that, what I mean is, are you doing things that somebody could be doing for you at a minimum wage? Now, some of you are newer in the business, which means you have to do everything right now, right? But again, if you're actually tracking your time and you're determining what you're doing every day, how effective are the things that you are currently doing? So, for example, I have a class that I also teach called How to Delegate What You Hate. And in that class, we talk about everything that you actually do in a day and how many of those things could be delegated to other people. For example, we now have virtual assistants on our team that we're paying anywhere from $4 to $7 an hour. And those virtual assistants are doing activities that is much more suited for them doing it than me doing it. My hourly rate is well over $500 an hour. So does it make sense for me to be doing activities that are $4 to $7 an hour, or even frankly, $20 to $25 an hour, right? Now that is not devaluing people who do get paid less, but there are people who are willing to do certain activities and jobs for considerably less that take those things off of my plate so that I can focus on creating more jobs and creating more opportunity. So let's talk about this. If you guys wanted to make $100,000 an hour, if you do the math, let's break it down into the math, because here's the thing that I know as well. Numbers don't lie. Numbers tell you what direction to go and what activities that you need to be doing. Now, $100,000 a year is not what it used to be 20 years ago, right? But $100,000 a year is still a very good income for the majority. It's more than many workers make, teachers make, things like that. So $100,000 a year can be an extraordinary income. But let's break that down into numbers that make more sense. And let's talk about what activities you actually have to be doing to make those numbers make sense. Because here's the reality. Many people want certain things, but they're not necessarily willing to do the work and the activity that it requires to accomplish that goal. So if you think about this, if you wanted to make $100,000 a year, that would equate to about $8,333 a month. Right? And this is all before taxes and before expenses, which we'll talk about a little bit in a moment. But in order to make $100,000 a year, if your average commission is $8,000, that means you have to close 12 and a half deals a year, which doesn't really sound like a lot, but it has the potential to do that. Oh, these numbers are not quite right here on each month, but this was originally set up for 25 transactions when average commission was $4,000. So that has now doubled. So let's talk about this. So in order to make $100,000 this year, you would have to make $8,333 a month. So how many deals is that? That can vary depending on a lot of different things. What is your average sales price in your market? I was talking to an agent yesterday, and her average sales price is, she's out of the Illinois area, and her average sales price is anywhere from $150,000 to $200,000. Our average sales price here in the greater Sacramento area is probably closer to $500,000. So you're going to want to run these numbers based on what is the average sales price in your market. And honestly, what is the average sales price of the homes that you're selling? For example, if your average sales price is $500,000, you want to make more money, then guess what? You need to sell homes that are $800,000 or $1 million, right? You want to make more per transaction, you can adjust your commission schedules. But if you don't know what you're currently making, or maybe you're newer and haven't sold anything yet, then you're not going to necessarily know what those numbers are. But if you start to look at what is the average sales price in the area, and you can make a determination based on that. So how many deals do you have to have in escrow to close 2 deals a month as well? What we know is to actually close 2, you typically have to have anywhere from 5 to 6 transactions in contract in a given month in order to close 2 that month. So what do I mean by that? If you have 5 transactions on the books for June or whatever, we're coming up on August, right? What are the odds of all 5 of those actually closing in that month? The odds are not high. Many times something will roll over to the next month, or maybe it closes early, or it cancels or falls out. Who knows? But again, also, if you have 5 in contract this month, do you also have 5 in contract next month? That's the big question, because agents typically are on this roller coaster, right? We get a deal in contract and we put all of our time and energy into that. I see it with agents on my team all the time. All of their energy is put into those transactions and getting them closed, and they stop prospecting. They stop making the calls every day. They stop doing the open houses. They stop doing all the activities that are generating that new business all the time. I see this with new and newer agents all the time, even experienced agents. They get consumed with that transaction, and they stop doing the prospecting that they need to do in order to continue to have business. So if you have 5 in contract this month, the truth is many times next month, you're not going to close anything, or maybe you close 1 if you're lucky. And so that happens frequently. You get consumed with what you're doing right now, and you stop doing the prospect every day. So let's break it down. Let's say that you wanted to make $100,000 a year, comes out to $8,300 or $1,920 a week, $384 a day if you work 5 days a week, or $48 an hour. So are you currently, based on your activities, are you doing the work that is getting you the results that you want to see, number 1? And so those results, are those actually showing up in closed transactions? Again, when you're consumed with the deals that you have in contract and you're not prospecting, next month you're going to be out of business and you're going to be broke. So let's break this down again. Let's just say, these are older numbers, you guys, again. So let's say that your average commission is $5,000. How many deals would you have to do a month? You'd have to do 2, which would equate to $10,000, right? And then with that, if your average split is 70-30 or whatever your split is, you're going to base it on that split. Then you're going to deduct expenses and deduct taxes, which agents forget about all the time. The average agent overestimates what they make and they underestimate what it costs. So they forget about, especially if you're coming from, oops, sorry, Elena, let's mute you. If you look at the average agent, they forget that they have expenses of doing business and taxes that they're going to have to pay. So they overestimate what they make and they underestimate what the actual costs are, right? So if you look at this again, $5,000 to $10,000 a month, average split, expenses, taxes. So let's break this down again. How many deals do you actually have to have in contract to close 2 deals a month? The truth is you're going to have anywhere from 6 to 8 deals in contract a month to actually close 2 every single month. Things are going to roll over, as I mentioned. Things are going to close early. Things are going to cancel, fall out. For example, we had 14 transactions in contract. We closed 11. 2 are potentially rolling over and 1 canceled. That's pretty average, right? So how many active clients do you need to be working with to get 8 deals in contract? The number actually is 18. And you're like, that's insane. Here's the truth. Out of those 18, some are going to buy, some are going to hold off, some are going to wait, some are going to have issues with credit, some are going to lose their job. Who knows? But out of those 18, what you're typically going to see is that you will ultimately get 8 in contract, right? That's the biggest issue. So it's having 8 active clients that are searching or listed is going to net you and result in 8 deals in contract typically. So in order to get 18 active clients, how many appointments do you have to go on? I know these numbers you think are crazy, but this is tried and true and stats we've followed. If you go on 54 appointments, basically 12 appointments a week, you will end up with 12 appointments a week are going to end you up with about 3 to 4 clients that will actually be ready to go and be working. What do I mean by ready to go? Have you met with a client who they had some credit they had to work on, or they were waiting for more money for a down payment, or who knows, there's a million reasons why people wait and don't actually buy. So out of those 54 appointments, getting 18 active clients are really good numbers. Now, if your stats are higher, that's a bonus, right? If your conversion rate is higher, woohoo, you got extra clients, not that big of a deal, right? But if you do not have a certain amount of appointments this week, you're not going to have 18 active clients that were going to result in 8 deals going into contract and 2 closed deals. Again, if you get lucky and you close more than 8 deals, that's fantastic. But what we're talking about right now are averages, okay? Averages, not exact. You will only know what your exact numbers are if you're actually tracking them, okay? So to get 54 appointments, you need to typically have 100 leads or more that you're actively talking with, okay? What does that mean? Let's talk about where your time and energy is. Let's talk about a conversion rate. So on average, if you generate 100 internet or advertising leads, it will result in 1 active client that you're working with, 100 leads to 1. If you're getting leads from business connections, such as your lender, your escrow, your financial advisors, your CPA, maybe your carpet cleaner. I get business from my nail lady, right? If you're getting business from business contacts, it's 10 to 1 conversion ratio. Now, what does that mean? It means, again, if you get 10 leads, odds are you're going to actually close 1 transaction from those leads. Again, why am I saying this? I'm repeating myself over and over again because it's important, because those leads are not all going to be ready and prepared to buy and sell when the time comes, right? For example, you meet with my nail lady referred me her daughter. She referred me her daughter a year ago. Her daughter was not ready at the time. And so her daughter at the time has been taking her time. It's been over a year and she's just now ready to go. Business referrals, database, which is your best one always. You guys hear me talk about database all the time. Why is database so valuable? Because look at the conversion rate. The conversion rate is 3 to 1. Meaning for every 3 referrals that I get from my past clients, personal friends, my sphere of influence, odds are I'm going to convert 1 of those. Again, 1 might have credit issues. They might not be ready. 1 might be holding off until the new year. 1 is, who knows? There's a million reasons why people don't buy right now. But we know that these conversion rates are pretty accurate. Now, again, when it comes to advertising, many times it really depends on what kind of advertising you're doing and where you're advertising. Many times you will hear me say that if you look at the ad, when you run an ad, how you know if it works is if it gets the phone to ring. If the phone rings, the ad is working. If the phone rings and you don't get an appointment, where's the problem? The problem is you. It means you got to work on your skill, your conversion rate, your scripting. What are you saying or doing that is not working and getting them to be have an appointment with you? Okay. We had a question. What was your question, Mark? Convert being an active client or a transaction. It's both. So let's break it down this way. You run an ad and you get a client that calls and they say, hey, I'm interested in talking to you about selling my house. Great. We know that ad worked. You converted the ad into a phone call. Now the next step is phone call to appointment. If that person calls and you do not get an appointment, the problem is you, right? If you get an appointment and you meet with them and they become an active client, that's conversion from phone call to appointment. Now there's a next step from that, appointment to actual client and client to close, right? So they become a client and you work with them for 6 months and they never buy. Did you convert them? You converted them to appointment, but did they convert to a client? No. To a transaction? No. Ultimately, however, we know that if we get people in front of you, even if you're not great, 70% of the people that get in front of you will actually work with you, right? What those conversion rates are from appointment to client and contact, it really depends on you and your skill. In looking at that, it helps us get an idea. Where should you spend the majority of your time? The truth is the majority of your time should be spent working on your database, right? 50% of your time ideally should be spent working on your database, calling, marketing, client events, different things you can do. 25% of your business typically will come from business connections. So 25% of your time could be spent developing and building business relationships and getting referrals out of them. 25% of your time in your business can come from advertising or marketing. Things that are considered advertising, things like open houses, right? community events where you're advertising, different things like that that you're advertising. But 25% of your business will typically come from advertising, 25 will come from your business connections, and 50% will come from your database. How do I know that? I can tell you that I can go look at my own transactions in my own business. And last year alone, almost actually 60% of my business came from my database. Another 30% for me came from business connections, and 10% came from advertising. So what did I have to do? I had to reevaluate my marketing and what I'm doing so that I can actually, you always are going to have to do a certain amount of advertising, even people who say I'm 100% referral. If you want to build and grow, if you want to be at a standstill and just continue to do the business you're doing, then yes, you don't necessarily need to do advertising. Like I'm at a point in my career where I don't really work. I don't do any advertising for myself personally, only for our team. So I'm not typically getting any business as a result of advertising for myself. Those people I'm passing on to my team. But do you know your numbers? In other words, are you currently making 100 grand a year, or do you want to make more? If you want to make more, then guess what? All you have to do is 5 times or 2 times or 3 times those numbers. But many times people want the results, but they don't want to put in the work. So when people come and they say, I'm not making the money that I want to make, I said, are you putting in the work that will get you the results that you want? Are you making the calls? We just had a conversation in my team this morning, and they're like, how much time do I have to spend prospecting? I go, what do you want your business to look like? How much money do you want to make? And are you going to spend 2 hours a day prospecting? And it should be, I was following a guy named Alex Hormozy, who's a big influencer. And what I love is he says, what you can do is you can test things out for 100 days. Meaning, are you willing to make 100 phone calls a day for the next 100 days? What I can promise you is if you actually do that, you cannot fail. Meaning that you will get the business that you want if you actually make 100 outbound calls a day. Who is even willing or able or capable to make 100 calls a day? Is anybody on this call willing to make 100 calls a day? Are you actively doing it? Feel free to post in the chat. If you're not, what would it take for you to make 100 calls a day? And you might think, that's insane. I can't make 100 calls a day. I know people that are easily making 100 calls a day or more. Isaac, how many calls a day are you making?
It ranges anywhere between 85 and 200. My standard for the day is 20 to 25 real estate conversations a day.
There you go.
So however many phone calls that takes. Sometimes it's 250, sometimes it's 75.
And do you have deals in contract right now?
My listing just closed, and I have a listing appointment in 2 days for 2 more listings.
Congratulations. So the activities are getting you results, are they not?
They are.
There you go. So now what will happen for you, because you're a newer agent, as you get better and better at skill training, you'll convert more of those. You'll get, and as you start to build your database, your conversion rate will go higher. As you start to focus on business relationships and connections as well, your conversion rate will go higher. But imagine, because if you're making 250, you're talking to 25 people a day. So you're talking to 125 a week on average, right? And 125 a week sounds like it got you 2 listing appointments. Is that right?
It got me 1 listing appointment with this guy who is going to give us 2 listings. Yeah, it's cool. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. A lot of those conversations are like follow-up conversations with the same people. So they're like nurtures.
There you go. But the truth is that if you continue to do that every day, you're going to see results. Are you not?
I think I will.
All day long. So what you may have to do is, again, we have to look at what those numbers are. And I'm assuming you're tracking those numbers. It sounds like you are. But the reality is that we now know that you're effectively, according to what you said, making 125 conversations a week, but it's taking you anywhere from, sounds like anywhere from 800 to 1200 dials a week. So it would be really interesting for you to start really tracking that. How many outbound calls did you make a week? How many did you actually talk to at the end of the day? How many appointments did you get? And how many of those appointments turned into clients? Those numbers are going to tell you what direction you need to go. If you're not converting anybody, we know the problem is skill training, right? We need to focus on how to do better, how to get better scripts, how to get better at your conversations, how to handle objections, things like that. If you're converting go ahead.
I'm not making 800 to 1200 calls a week. I'm probably making 400 to 600 a week.
So what I encourage you to do is to actually track those real numbers.
Okay.
You should be tracking on simple forms. We have our success tracker forms. We have different forms you can use, tracking how many calls are you actually making a day. Because again, the numbers are not going to lie to you. They're going to tell us what direction you need to go. So again, if you're making 100 calls and actually talking to 25, like I know it takes me 25 to 30 calls to actually talk to 10 people. And there's a difference between making calls and actually talking to people. So for me, many times I know historically, I have to make anywhere from 25 to sometimes even 40 calls to actually talk to and get 10 people on the phone. I will even consider text messages if they're engaging, meaning I can't just send a message and they don't respond. If I send a message and they respond, hey, Marguerite, how's it going? And we start to have a conversation, I'll consider that a text message to talk to. So how many calls do you have to make a week that are actually going to result in you having a conversation? How many of those conversations are turning into appointments? How many of those appointments are turning into contracts? That's what you have to actually track, Isaac. And that's going to tell you where you need guidance and direction, where you need help, and how you can improve. Now, here's another aspect to think about. Let's say that you've gotten 200 leads, but the ad you were running was bad credit, poor credit, no job, no nothing. So you don't end up converting those people. Is the problem you? No, it's probably the ad, right? So if you're doing advertising that way and you're not getting the results, this is how you can start to analyze what works and what doesn't work. If you're getting a ton of calls off of an ad and you're not converting people, then you have to do one of two things. It's either you, we got to work on skill training for you, or it's the type of advertising you're doing. If you're advertising right now in our Northern California, Sacramento market, homes for $150,000, we don't have any homes for $150,000. So you're not going to convert any of the, now that's not necessarily true. You might convert people because you never know what people have, how much money they have. But the reality is you're advertising, you have to analyze all of these numbers, and these numbers tell you which, in fact, direction to go. Either you need to change your advertising, you need to change your scripting, you need to change something. But knowing that you're talking to 25 people a day, how many of those are converting into appointments? If you're getting no appointments, again, we need to see what does that actually look like. And when you start tracking the numbers, they don't lie to you. Any other questions you guys have or thoughts about that? No, no questions. Okay, that's actually all we had today. So be sure to subscribe to my podcast. We got lots of great guests. Oh, Mark, did you have a question?
I do have a question. I want to know, what is the best way to connect with your sphere?
The best way to connect with your sphere is phone calls, mail, events. Okay. So phone calls, hey, just checking in. How's things going? How's life? How's your business? We call it the Ford script. So Lena asked what scripts we have. Ford is family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. So when I'm calling my database, I'm like, hey, Mark, how's things? How's the family? If they have a family, if they don't, you don't ask that question. But the next question is, hey, how's things going at work? Do you love your job? What's going on with that? The next thing is recreation. Have you done anything fun lately? Oh yeah, we just went up to Tahoe, we went hiking. And the next thing is dreams. Hey, what's on your goal list? Do you have any big things you're working on in the next year? So family, occupation, recreation, and dreams are the best ones. Yeah.
Social media videos. I feel like that's been working for me. I could do more, but I feel like that's an easy way to drip on people because they watch my videos and they're engaging, and it feels like it's very efficient.
So social media is great too. It's very passive, right? So it's part of your marketing campaign, but it shouldn't be all of it. So social media is important. That's where you can connect with people. If you're doing things that are engaging and getting people to engage and interact, right? I've definitely done some stuff on social media, and that's a part of it, but I would definitely not say that should be all of it. How do you capture them on social media? You got to be engaging. You got to ask questions. Look at what actually gets you to connect with people on social media. You need to tell stories, tell success stories, tell how you've helped people. Talk about the number one reason people don't buy a home is because they don't think they can, right? So what are stories that you might have used or shown people that they can now buy or sell? What have they done? What have you done to help them? So social media should definitely be part of it. But for those of you who are relying 100% on social media, I don't think that's the answer. It might be if you're getting the results. Again, the numbers won't lie to you. If you come to me and you say, hey, I'm not doing any of that stuff you're saying, Marguerite, I'm just doing social media. I go, okay, cool. How many appointments did you get? How many deals have you closed? If you say, I haven't gotten any, then that's not working, is it? Or you have to change it up. You have to figure out ways to engage. Everything is a test, you guys. It's a test to see What results are you getting? If you're not getting the results that you want, then what you're doing is not working. So either A, you're not working, you're not doing the work, or B, what you're doing is not working. So I can tell all day long. If you come to me and you say, hey, I'm not getting any results, I'll go, great, show me your trackers. How many calls you make? How many appointments you have? Oh, I'm not really tracking it. Well, then how will you have any idea of what's working and what's not working? Think about a sports athlete, you guys. Do you think, I don't know anything about sports, but do you think on baseball, for example, any of you sports enthusiasts regarding baseball, do they track every time they're up to bat? Every single time. There's somebody actually standing on the sideline tracking their stats. And who gets paid the most amount of money? The ones who have the better statistics. How do they get better? They have coaches and trainers, and they're constantly tracking their numbers. If you have a guy who goes up to bat or a gal who goes up to bat 100 times and never hits the ball, is that person going to be making millions of dollars a year? No. But how do they know that? We tracked you. We watched. You were up at 100 times and you never hit the ball. So where is the problem? It could have been the pitcher. We could blame the pitcher all day. He pitched horrible. He didn't pitch 100 times badly. If he did, he's not going to be a pitcher very long, right? But how will we know if it's the pitcher or you? If the pitcher is pitching to other people and they're hitting the ball, we know the problem is not the pitcher, right? We know the problem is you. I see this many times. I've had it where people have come to me and said, all the leads are crap. Really? Okay. So then I'll sit down and I'll call the leads and I'll convert people. So we know all the leads are not crap. We know it's skill training. And it's not always me. I've done it too. I said, oh, the leads are crap. And then next thing you know, somebody else is calling them and they got business out of that database. So the problem is not always the leads, but you won't know if you're not tracking any of it. You won't know. Does that make sense? Awesome. Any other questions? All right, you guys, anyone else have any other questions? All right. Thank you for joining me again today for Tuesday Tune-Ups, always available on YouTube. Be sure to follow me on social media. And if you have any other questions, please reach out. Make it a great day. Bye.
Thank you, Marguerite. Bye.